Well, welcome back. I hope everybody's enjoying this little console build. I know I certainly am. It's nice to change it up and work with wood every now and then. It looks like I'm gonna be flying solo this week, but we're gonna do our best to continue on without him. But before we continue on, I wanna say congratulations to this month's winner of the Rigid Shop Vac. Your name is in the description, and I think we're also doing a redraw for the hammers, I think. So check for that too. And next month, we're giving away a little Bosch router. It's hard to see because there are stickers all over the box, but it's this guy right here. Been using this thing for probably 10 years or close to it. It's been really good. I love that little thing, so that's this month. And again, to get entered, all you got to do is be a subscriber, go in the comments and type subscribed, and that's it. And you got to do it once a month. It's not a one and done sort of situation, but anyway, that's what we got going on. Congratulations to the winners this month, and we're going to get going on this box again. So it occurred to me shortly after we put this piece on last week that we really needed to do some routing in here, particularly on the opening of this port. This really needed to be rounded over. So I'm gonna have to get in there and find a way to get that done. I may have to do it by hand, which isn't a huge deal. I mean, this stuff is pretty easy to work with. We also need to round over this edge and this edge just to, you know, make it a little smoother in there. There is air moving around in here. It doesn't move very far, but it moves pretty fast. So if you can eliminate all these hard edges, better off you'll be. I'm gonna take this thing outside. I'm gonna do some sanding, do some round overing, work on the end of that port, and then we can get back to putting pieces on. Went ahead and pre-cut some of these little pieces here. You guys don't want to see me cut 100 different pieces. So get this thing back to where we need to be to continue, and then we'll start gluing wood. Yeah, so you can see what a nice job it does with, you know, if you sand these first and get a nice clean edge here. These little roundover bits have a bearing on the end, if you're not familiar. So whatever this surface looks like is what your roundover is going to look like. But yeah, that's pretty. I did get a lot of this in here too. Got about 3/4 of this side and a little bit on here, at least to have a reference. I'll get in here and hand sand this. Looks are less important than just getting rid of these corners, because it could create kind of a wind noise when this sub is working and that air is moving. It could start creating noise that you don't want. So it's more important just to knock this corner off. Nobody will ever be able to see it. We just don't want to hear it. So get in here and whittle on this, and then here on the top a little bit. Get all this cleaned up, then we can move on. All right, well, I think we're back to good here. Again, we got all this rounded over on top. Went ahead and rounded this over on bottom. Which again, none of this is cosmetic. Once it's built, you'll never be able to see any of it. It's just to try to create a little bit smoother airflow through this box. We got this rounded over in here, along with that side. So we should be good to go. There is one thing left to round over, and that's this. So we might as well hit it while we're here. All right, well, we got this one done as well. And again, weighting did cause us a little issue here. The router couldn't quite get this bottom before it hit the side hanging out here. But just did a little work on it by hand, did a little hand sanding, and it looks really good. Which this one is purely cosmetic. Which ironically, you won't be able to see it either. But we'll know it's there, and we know it looks good. Let's get this thing back inside and start putting pieces on it. So now we can start putting these pieces on here. We've got this piece, which creates the back of where the cup holders will be, and our little tiny storage area, recessed storage. And this is the bottom of the cup holders, basically. And then there's a little piece that goes right in here to connect the two. And it's probably a little tricky by myself, but we'll make it happen. Go ahead and mark my staples so I don't miss. Put them at about 3 1/8. There's a quick look what I'm doing. I just mark where I want to put staples, put a little circle around it so I can see it. That way I don't miss. Doing this by myself is going to be a little tough to hold it and staple it in the right place. Now I think what I'll do is I'll just clamp a board, scrap board, across this bottom edge. That way it'll hold it right where it needs to be. All I have to worry about is this. All right. That should be right where we want it. Take this out. Now we can put our little filler piece in here. Right in there like that. Oops. Don't pull on that piece. It's loose still. go. We'll get one in the end here. And we'll see if we can get some along this bottom edge. Staples are just holding it together long enough for the glue to dry. They're not holding it together permanently. Hopefully this doesn't just split or shoot the staple out the side. We'll try one and see. I think it did okay. Yeah, we're good. So now we can put this piece in. This is the back of the cup holders. That'll go right there. Then our cup holders will end up right here. All right. This is going to be a little tricky. As long as we can get one out here on the end, I think it'll be fine. Oh yeah. What we'll do here in the middle is just put a clamp on it, let it sit there. Once that glue dries, it'll be just as good as the rest of them. Let that sit up. Meanwhile, we can put our little brace in here. There we go. So that's a little brace we made last episode. Nothing fancy, it's just a brace. And that will go right in here. All right, want our mark. It's looking good. Shoot some staples in there, and that'll be done. All right, I think what we're gonna do now is cut some boards with, and we'll put pockets in them where these cup holders can kind of nest into them and lock them in place. Well, I had to get a new one of these this week. You may have noticed in the last episode where I broke this thing. I was trying to get that little pin out. It got a little rust on it over the years, I admit. That thing's probably 10 years old too. But yeah, it's acrylic, and I pulled on it too hard and broke it, so here we go with a new one. It's the Jasper 200, which I believe is the same as this. I'm not sure why it's yellow now, but at any rate, I have to get this changed out. So you're supposed to use a 1/4" pin that it comes with, put it in this collet, and you center this up. But that's a 1/2" collet. It ain't gonna chuck a 1/4" pin. I'm not sure how I did this last time, 10 years ago. That's too long ago. So that's our screws. We may just have to eyeball it and run with it. So you're also supposed to be using a 1/4 inch bit for all these measurements to work out, and I'm not doing that either. That looks pretty good to me. I pretty much always put the pin and measure to verify my diameter anyway, so it doesn't matter too much. Pop that out. Don't need that anymore. I guess we need any of this hardware. So yeah, we're mounted up, ready to go. We do need our pin that's not rusty. There we go. Get that cutter lined up more or less. Should be pretty good. Make a real light scratch pass and then we'll check it, make sure. All right, let's see what we got. It looks about a 32nd big. Let's back it down a hole here. That's better. Yeah, it's just a smidge small, but that's better than big, I think. All right, let's try one of these in here and see what we ended up with. Oh, that's pretty snug. Yeah, I think that's what we want though. We can use these little ribs, which they're flexible, to grip it in there. So that's pretty much all the way through. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, we're gonna run with it. Now we just cut it off. Probably cut this down too. There's no need to have this in the middle, just adding weight. All right, now we have what we need to hold our cup holders. That one goes on that side. And that one goes on that side. Just like that. And our cup holders will sit in here like this. Nice and snug. Perfect. So now we can work on our top piece, which will be pretty much just like this piece, but we won't cut it in half. So it's already cut to size. All we need to do is find the centers, route our circles, and that's that. It is going to be recessed here a 1/4 inch or so. You can see that's a little bit lower. So hopefully we'll have enough room to get that recess and maybe a little bit of round over on the edge or something like that. We'll see. Of course, another thing we need to account for is leather. Leather will be between this and that wood. So we need this hole to be just a little bit bigger than what we'd actually like it to be, so it'll be right in the end. We probably need to give it a 1/16 per side, so it needs to be probably 1/8 of an inch bigger, honestly. Which seems like a lot, but I think that's what it'll take. Now just broke our piece. All right, so we're gonna have to adjust our approach here with this top piece with these holes, because the holes are so close. You know, when we glued this piece in, I wasn't really adding that 1/8 of an inch for the leather to go between that cup holder and the wood. So when you add that in, it is just so close to here. So with it being that close on both sides, that end just wants to fall off. Like it was cutting one side of it all the way through. So this back side is the side with a little bit more room, I think, than the front. So what we're gonna have to do is come in here and cut this down 3/4 of an inch so that that piece can run off and set on top of the side instead of butt it up to it. And then we'll also run it off the front 3/4. So then the front will butt up underneath it instead of being in front of it. So that'll give us a little more width, which we don't really need, but you have to do that in order to do this. So hopefully that'll take care of our problems. It's still going to be microscopically thin in the back, but you know, even if that little piece goes away, it's not a big deal. You know, once it's glued in here, it'll be fine. We just got to get it here. I think that worked out okay. So now we'll remake this piece the same way we made this one. We'll just start with a long strip. There's already one 13.5 for these pieces. We'll do our circles first and then we'll slice it off of there. All right, there's our new cut mark. So we did get away from the hole quite a bit. And that measurement is exactly 3/4 of an inch. So yeah, we're cutting it pretty close with all these tolerances. So obviously the front will be coming up underneath this piece and it'll be matching up basically right with that hole. So it's all pretty tight. Just got to keep it interesting, right? I went ahead and did a little sanding on these, got this all slicked off. So this piece is more or less ready to go in there. But before we can put it in there, we have to put this in. So this is going to go right in the center there. And I originally wanted to recess it in and make it look more fancy, you know, a little nicer, but in order to keep using this cover, that's not really an option. You could recess it, I mean, a 1/16 of an inch, whatever this lip is. It doesn't have much of a lip, but any recessing you do is just going to make it harder to use this cap. And I think that cap is a good idea, especially since this thing is going to face straight up. So dust, dirt's going to want to get in there. If you ever spilled a drink, it would go right in there. So I think the cover is important. So I guess recessing it is not really going to be an option. All we got to do is drill a hole here, right in the center. And then we're going to have to drill a hole in here for the wires to go through. So we'll get that done, then we can get this piece on and move on. I think we'll flip it over, get the rest of it from the other side, so hopefully it doesn't blow out the edge too bad. Here we go. I think my battery's dying. Now we just need to drill our hole going through here for the wires. All right, so I grabbed the 5/16 bit. This should be quite a bit bigger than what we actually need for these two little wires, because this isn't even a 12-volt outlet. It's just a USB charger. 5 volts, 2.1 amps. So it's not going to take a very big wire to power it. But we're going to need room to get some silicone in here, because we have to seal this hole back up, because it goes into our volume for our sub. So you don't want any leaks aside from the port. So we're going to go a little bit bigger what we need, so we got plenty of room to work with to get silicone in here and fill that void, what's left from the wire. So while we're drilling, now's as good a time as any to figure out where we want these wires to exit the box. We also got to drill a hole for our speaker wires to exit the box. Put a hole there and a hole there. Our speaker wires can come out here and go to the amp. This power wire can come out here and run to the fuse block or whatever. They'll be separated, and that'll just be better. Well, this one is going to have to be bigger. Speaker wires. These are going to be pretty big speaker wires, so we're going to need quite a bit bigger hole for the pair to get through there. All right, so I found a sample piece of our speaker wire. That is Stinger 10 gauge speaker wire, so it's pretty big stuff. So what I'm going to try to do is drill 2 holes pretty close together. These are 5/16 also. And then we'll just break the inside out of it, or whatever we got to do. If that don't work, just have to drill a 1/2 inch hole for it, fill it up with silicone. Okay, well there is our speaker wire hole. That gives us enough room where we should be able to pack silicone all the way around that wire and get it sealed in there real good. So I went ahead and stuck the console back in here so I can get a measurement on the bottom. So it's relatively flat, at least across here in the center. And I got a 1/2 inch. And then it starts falling off about right here. So I think it's time to start fitting this front piece on. We've got some measurements. We got a general idea what we need to do, so we'll start whittling away on that thing until it fits this contour of this trans tunnel. All right, we finally got this thing fitting the way it needs to. Did just a little bit of blending here from where it goes from straight to that angle. That's not real important, but this edge fits really nice. So now all I got to do is cut the top off where we swap these boards. This was originally going to go up against that top piece. Now it's going under it. So I'm going to cut this off. Then I think we'll be ready to put this on. Ooh. All right, so now we can get these pieces in, and this piece is going to serve as support for the console, and then this piece will be where the back comes and hits. Could have probably been all in one piece, but I think this is going to be easier in the long run. So we'll just do it like that, make our life easy, I think. All right, well, we are finally just about ready to put this side on here. But before we do, I want to run a bead of silicone around most of these connections down here while it's easy to get to. Obviously, once this side goes on, I'll have to reach in through the speaker hole and do this and around here, but that's okay. There's no way around that. So, got a little bit of glue drying here. While that sets up, I'm going to run some silicone around the bottom and wherever else I need to get to, like maybe here. I'm not going to worry about the brace. Brace can't leak. It's going to be trapped in there. Luckily, I can reach all the way to the corner of this port. One good thing about the shape of this port, really there's no good reason why these connections wouldn't be sealed already, but this is just a little bit of insurance is all. All right, well, I don't know what happened. I don't know if we even have any footage, but we're finally getting this side on here at last. It looks like our front piece is short somehow. I don't know. We'll look at that in a minute. Right now, we just need to get this side all lined up where it's supposed to be. I'm gonna get some marks on here so I don't miss. That ought to hold it. All right, so as you guys can see, we have a slight problem here. This front board is too narrow. I don't know what happened. I swear I cut it off of a strip that was ripped 13.5 inches wide, but as you can see, it is not 13.5 inches wide. But it's done and glued and dry. There's no going back on that, so all we can do is just add to that, laminate a little strip on the end here. It'll be fine, but yeah, no idea what happened on that. And we'll just wait for this glue to dry, and then we can sort this whole situation out. Yeah, our glue's pretty well all dried up now, so we can get this little piece sanded down. Okay, well, I suppose that's crisis averted. You can just see our little piece in here. Other than that, it's all but gone, thankfully. Well, I do think it threw us off here. It had to have adding that piece back in. So we'll have to take a look at that when this thing goes back in the truck. But other than that, I'm pretty happy with how it's turning out. It'd have been nice if this hadn't happened, but it's not the end of the world by any means. All right, so the next piece to go on is going to be our top piece for our cup holders and our outlet. But I think before I put this on, I'm going to get in here and give this a coat of fiberglass resin to waterproof it all. Because I've been thinking, and if something ever got spilled down in here, this would just be destroyed. If you've ever worked with MDF or had anything that was MDF, you know that it doesn't tolerate liquids at all. So I think I'm going to go ahead and give this a coat in here, and I'll give the bottom side a coat. And then once that's all dried, well, we probably won't be able to use wood glue anymore. We give it another coat of resin, and then we'll staple it down. We'll just get it all coated with resin, and then we'll get it on here, and then once we do our round over and all that, we'll coat the top too. So I think that's what I'm going to do now, is hit all this with some resin, just a light coat of the fiberglass resin, let it soak in there, and that should take care of it. Well, I dropped the ball again. Camera died just about the time I got this resin mixed up, but got it all done. There's a coat in here. There's a coat on the back side of this top piece. It's pretty well dried now. It's just slightly tacky, but so I'm gonna mix up a little bit more and hit all these edges. Then we'll stick this down and staple it. And then we'll let that dry. Just mixed up about an ounce, best I could tell. It says put 10 drops per ounce. Should be pretty close. That ought to do. Probably stay off of that little piece. All right, well, our resin's all dry, so now I think I'm gonna take it outside, do some sanding on it. Got a slight overhang here, and just clean it all up in general. We can probably round over some of these corners also, start making it look pretty. And then we'll bring it back in. We may put some more resin on the top, seal it all up once we have all this rounded over. But yeah, we'll get it outside and do some sanding. Well, I think that's turning out pretty nice. Got some nice crisp corners here. So I think we can go ahead and take a round over bit and round over some of this stuff. This won't be rounded over past here, I know that for sure. I'm not sure how this transition is going to work out, but we can round it over a little bit here. We can do the front, the corners, and we need a little round over here to transition to the cup holder cup itself. So we'll take a look at that. Well, that's looking better already. It's looking pretty nice. So I think my router bit's cut one too many staples, it's starting to get lines in it. Yeah, that is looking really good. I like it. All right, now we just need to look at our little cups here. Okay, so our little cup holder cup is sitting down in here right at 1/4 of an inch. So hopefully I can find a round over bit that's 1/4 inch radius, and we can just cut a small round over that'll just come down to the top of that cup. I found a little 1/4 inch round over bit, so this should do what we need it to do, hopefully. All right, well, so far it looks pretty good. Let's check it out with the cup in it. Nice and snug down in there. I like that. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. Not sure how well y'all can see what's going on there. It's not bad. I might do a little more hand sanding here, just open it up a little bit more, but all in all, it looks pretty good. So now, we're gonna go ahead and cut the hole for the port. So I got it laid out. If my measurements are correct, it should be 1/4 inch smaller on all 4 sides. So it should be a 1/2 inch smaller overall. So once we get this cut, we'll cut it with a jigsaw. Then we'll get in there with a flush trim bit and just run around the inside of the port, and it should cut it perfect. So now we can get in there with this guy, and this bearing will run on the inside of the port, and this blade will cut it flush. Pretty slick little bits. Pretty slick. It's nice and flush. Now all we gotta do is go around that with a roundover bit. That'll be done. All right, there we go. We can finally say something's done. So there's our port. Looking pretty slick. All right, guys. I think I gotta call it there. Feels like we made a little bit better progress this week than last week, but got a long way to go still. But if you liked it, do us a favor, hit that like button and subscribe. After you do that, go down in the comments and type subscribed. That'll get you entered into our monthly giveaways. Again, this month it's the Bosch router. There's a link in the description if you want to check it out. But that's gonna do it. Appreciate y'all watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.